And not just me, but for the Crime and Entertainment Podcast, my man Hollywood Wade here. It was great being on with y'all, and locked, cocked, and ready to rock. You'll see me dropping warheads on people's foreheads sometime soon, baby. Bang, bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. We got here a very special guest. We're live here at CatchCon in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm joined by none other than Bulletproof Troop. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Like you said, out here at CatchCon, we've had some of the best catch wrestling coaches around the world come together and put on an amazing clinic this weekend. And then we got a big competition coming tomorrow, big dog. I might be taking home some more jewelry. Current lights out extreme fighting heavyweight mixed martial arts champion. And I might just be the first CatchCon champion come tomorrow afternoon.
Might just be. You're the odds-on favorite from what I hear. I'm a betting man. Everybody said put it on you.
So we're a smart man.
Well, you got an interesting background because not only are you into this, you do have some other wrestling that you do. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this originally, because that's always
yeah.
fun.
So the original background is fighting professionally. I've been fighting for just over a decade, and several years ago during COVID, I expanded my brand into professional wrestling. So my name's Blake Troop. My fight nickname's Bulletproof. So Blake Bulletproof Troop. I dropped the Blake, and now it's just Bulletproof Troop, known for dropping warheads on people's foreheads. And I've been having fun in the professional wrestling world, as well as mixed martial arts. I'm also the current commentator for Lights Out Extreme Fighting, as well as the current heavyweight champion. So I'm dabbling in just about a little bit of everything, kind of like the king of combat sports entertainment, you could say.
Yeah, the king. That's kind of like us here at Crime and Entertainment. We dabble with a little bit of everybody. I always tell people, it don't matter what you're into, you're going to find a little bit over there. And I think this is going to appeal to the wrestling fans and the UFC fans, because tell us a little bit about the Shoot Pro Wrestling. You guys kind of blend two things together with the cage. Tell us a little bit about that and what it appeals to.
So I actually have not competed in Shoot Pro. Tomorrow will be my first time competing under the rule sets, but I have been a big fan for a long time. And essentially, with the UFC and WWE now being under the same roof at Endeavor, training under the same stock TKO, Jake has... And Jake did this long before, but the best way I could describe Shoot Pro is the UFC and the WWE had a baby. You have professional wrestling rules with legitimate combat sports competition. And so I'm really excited to see what I think could be a future potential major channel within the combat sports world of legitimate combat sports competition under professional wrestling rules at Shoot Pro. And I'm really excited to compete tomorrow. And like I said, probably taking home some fresh jewelry.
And one of the biggest differences in this that you would see in a regular like UFC is that you guys can score pinfalls. Is that right?
Correct. So just like in professional wrestling, there's submissions and then there's pinfalls. And so it's different than just regular submission grappling. One of the downsides, in my opinion, to submission grappling is there can be a little bit of stalemating, because a guy can be on the bottom and close their guard up and prevent action from happening. But when your shoulders can get pinned to the mat, and it's not like wrestling needs to be a 1, 2, 3. If you're pinned, one, boom, it can. So it keeps the action moving, where guys can't just lock down a position and kind of chill or relax, where the rules, in my opinion, of catch wrestling with having the pin as just as important as the submission really increases the rate of activity and, in return, excitement factor for the fans watching.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about, is it you can get as many falls in a certain time limit? How does that work?
So it's best of 3. I'm not 100% sure what the rule set is for tomorrow. The other catch wrestling rule sets I've competed under are best out of 3, and it's a 5-minute round.
Okay.
So ideally you're going to win 2 out of 3, but if a guy only wins 1 and the 2 of them go to overtime. But so best out of 3 within a variable amount of time per fall, meaning per submission or pin. Another exciting thing that I think is much different than a lot of other submission grappling is it's a best out of three. A match is a best of three. So somebody might catch somebody in a quick submission, and that might not happen again.
Right.
So in my opinion, it takes out a little bit of the luck factor maybe, and where I think when it becomes a best of three series, now you're really starting to see who the better overall competitor is when you see a winner of a catch wrestling match under the Shoot Pro rules.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, like in UFC or any combat sport, really, somebody can get caught off guard, just slip up one time, and that's all really somebody needs is one slip up. And then how many fights have we watched where it's over with in 30 seconds?
Exactly.
Because somebody slipped up just a little bit. With this, it changes the landscape a little bit because you can get caught with that one. Then you got to say, all right, I got to get my shit together. I got to get focused.
Exactly. And, I don't want to downplay the value of being able to catch a guy because sometimes whether it's a knockout strike or a quick submission, where I believe that that's part of the game. And that's one of the cool things about a pin or a submission is you could be getting your butt whooped for, let's say it's a 5-minute round, for 4 minutes and 55 seconds and get that submission or pin, or maybe you get it in the first 10 seconds. But having the best out of three really means that each guy has a chance to make adaptations against their opponent coming into the next matches and so forth, where like, I'm not going to do that again. This guy's not catching me with that again. Or, and also just like in a boxing match or an MMA fight where now you can go back to your corner and talk to your coaches and so forth, where you can adjust game plans. Where in a regular jiu-jitsu or submission grappling match, you got 1 8-minute round typically, or 1 10 or 12 or whatever it may be. Where having the ability to come back to your corner now, in my opinion, adds to the effectiveness of having good coaching and an ability to adapt on the fly. Just like a boxer, if he goes through his corner, like, hey, here's what we need to do, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And then you see them implement that in the next round. So I believe that's something else that is an advantageous aspect of the Shoot Pro rule set compared to today's modern submission grappling.
And also, when you say that, one fight in particular comes to mind, and maybe you've seen this, but the American Gangster, Chael Sonnen.
I'm a huge, Anderson Silva.
He was whipping on Anderson Silva for four rounds and 4 minutes and 52 seconds.
Caught his ass in that triangle.
And got him caught, and he tapped out. And that's like Chael dominated that fight from start to finish. And hands down, if he hadn't got caught, he would have been the clear winner. But you got to give it to Silva for taking a beating, taking a pounding, and seeing that opening and grabbing it.
So that's one of the things I like about combat sports compared to any other sport in the world. There's no other sport in the world where you can be losing. Like, you can't be down 50 points going into the last minute of a basketball game and come out winning. It does not possible. Or a football, like fighting, you be getting
Tom Brady. Maybe if Brady's playing.
Maybe there's some exceptions to that. But fighting, like you said, you could be a 25-minute fight. You could be getting whooped for 24 and a half minutes and still lose the fight. And that's one of, I think, the beauties of combat sports. There's very few other games where you can checkmate somebody, It's got to keep your attention for the full time you're in that ring. When you're in the ring, you can't take minutes off. You can't take seconds off, or it can cost you. Coming up, who was some of the fighters that you enjoyed watching in the octagon? It's hard to go against a lot of guys. Like Ilia Topuria is so much fun to watch. I'm a huge fan of I would say that's probably one of my top guys. I heard that John Jones and Tom Aspinall recently came to an agreement. Sounds like a huge payday. John getting in there to fight Tom, which I think is going to be one of the toughest matchups of his career, being up at heavyweight against a very tough, young, and hungry Tom Aspinall. Yeah. And even better I don't know about even better, but just as exciting in the co-main event, you have Islam Makhachev fighting Ilia Topuria, who's coming up a weight class now. Champ versus, I guess you could say, former champ, and that should be a banger. I think that'll be a very tough fight for Ilia Topuria, but at the same time, the dynamite that kid has in his hands, it only takes one, and Makhachev's been knocked out. So
Makhachev, he's an animal now, and I watched, who's it, Piero's fighting? Alex Piero's fixing to fight.
Yeah.
Here in a couple weeks, that should be a good one. The landscape of UFC is really interesting because you have these polarizing stars, and even when they take kind of going like Conor McGregor. He was the top draw for a long time. He moved on to other things. He got some paydays for movies and boxing matches. You think who's going to be that next guy, but UFC always has a next man up type of mentality. Why do you think they're always able to replace those guys so easily?
I'm not sure it'd be quote unquote so easy, but I also think there's a level of being able to manufacture guys on their way up to the top. I would say one of the big names that are trying to quote unquote replace Conor on a more similar level is Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to take anything away from Sean or Conor because these dudes can fight. They didn't make it to where they're at if they couldn't fight. But you can also give guys what we would call favorable matchups, so they're going to go in and look good. And, Conor says wild shit. Let's get this dude a knockout and go put a microphone in his hand. Next thing you know, he's selling us that many more pay-per-views on the next card. So there's a certain level of being able to, and I don't necessarily like the term manufacture because you're putting guys in positions to shine, not necessarily making them, if that makes sense. But that's also one of the things about combat sports is you could have the best talker in the world and try and give them all kinds of whatever. And if you can't fight, that's you
got to be able to put that package together because don't get me wrong, you got some people out there that can fight. John Jones, for the most part, has been very humble throughout his whole career, except for when he was with Cormier. They had a little bit of a war of the words. But outside of that, man, John Jones will beat the shit out of you and then help you up, pat you on the back, hug you, pray with you, do the Trump dance. I mean, he'll do it all. So not everybody does that, but the people that can put it together, like your Chael Sonnens, like your Tito Ortiz's, and like Conor McGregor, they steal, in my opinion, a little bit of that from the professional wrestling side. They mix it with the UFC, and it is a gold star ticket, brother.
I 100% agree with you. And so, like I said, I have my professional wrestling brand, Bulletproof Troops, also kind of my fight thing. And it's in my entire, we call it a gimmick in pro wrestling, but it's my entire brand is this professional wrestling personality that I've developed and utilized in combat sports. And I've since brought to professional wrestling. But at the end of the day, the top three most important things for a fighter is being able to fight, being able to fight, and being able to fight. You can't do those three things. It don't matter how well you can talk or how well you can do anything else.
Well, what is the odds on you tomorrow? Do you know? Got any betting odds on you?
On tomorrow?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a great question.
We're in Vegas.
Bet the house, baby. Bet the house.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Blake Troop is looking to win the first ever CatchCon tournament here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Blake, we wish you all the best, my friend.
Appreciate you, my man. For all the fans at home, you can come over to bulletprooftroop.com. Find me on Instagram at bulletprooftroop or on X at BigTroop22. Come by, grab some merch, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And not just me, but for the Crime and Entertainment Podcast, my man Hollywood Wade here. It was great being on with y'all, and locked, cocked, and ready to rock. You'll see me dropping warheads on people's foreheads sometime soon, baby. Bang, bang.